Hi, my name is Dave McGuire of Skills Plus Training Academy. I do many seminars on preparing and delivering presentations and using PowerPoint effectively in your presentations. And I wanted to do a couple videos to help learn more about advanced PowerPoint, because I find when I do seminars, it's very, very difficult for students or clients to follow along. It does get a little bit technical managing some of your content. So I thought I'll do an instructional video that people can refer to after my seminars. So today, part one will be on bullets management. I'll do a second one on controlling and managing your images. And then I'll do a third on this new morph transition, which is quite a professional way to manage motion. So this presentation does assume that you have a few basic PowerPoint skills, like adding slides, creating bullets. You don't need to know inserting shapes and images for this particular video. Video 2 you will. Hopefully you've had some experience with bullet animations, but if you haven't, we're going to cover the basics. And slide transitions, again, that's going to be for a later video. So whenever I do my seminars, I always put this slide up and I ask the audience, what's the problem with this slide? Well, and of course, the answer is right in the body of the bullets. You can see that all the bullets appeared at once. So what happens is the people in the audience, they try and read them all at once. So they are no longer paying attention to you. They're trying to read all this content on the screen. And because they're not focusing on me, they're no longer listening to me. They're actively trying to digest this slide. They also don't know which line to focus on because I put them all up at once. So this is really a poor practice. It leads to bad presentations. This typically works much better. This is the opposite of what we saw before. And I'll turn my camera off for 1 second here so you can see the full effect of this slide. So you enter the bullets one at a time, so the audience can't read ahead. There's only a limited amount of content on the screen, and you bring up each bullet as you want to speak to them. And you'll notice in this presentation that the preceding bullet is changing color to give the new bullet more visibility. There's contrast between the old bullets and the new bullets. The new bullets are sort of fading into the background. So your eye is drawn to the new bullet with higher contrast. So by doing this, they're only going to focus on one line and one thought at a time, and it's much easier to pay attention to me. And obviously, this will give them a chance to listen better. Because we have to remember these slides are only meant to complement the speaker. The speaker really needs to be the center of attention in a presentation. And you'll notice I used visuals to support each individual bullet, which makes the presentation a little bit more effective and dynamic. But again, controlling those images we'll leave for a follow-up video. So in this video, we're just going to learn a few things. Again, I have to do a series because if I cram them all into one, it would probably take about an hour. So in this video, we're going to learn how to manage your bullets. By doing that, we're going to use entrance and emphasis animations. We're also going to learn how to use the animation pane. This is where you're going to control the timing of your animations and even the order. Okay? So I'll start with the easy one first of all, which most of you hopefully are aware of. I'm just going to exit my presentation and go to my workspace. Oops, I wanted to actually go through these slides first before I show you how to do it. So my favorites are a fade animation, a zoom, a grow and turn. These tend to be a little bit more professional than ones like this, which are a little bit too gimmicky. You really need to know your audience and read your audience. If you're doing a presentation to primary school kids, then that might be fun, but it probably isn't professional for a business setting or an education setting. I personally use fly in a lot, and you'll see that it's coming from many different directions, and we'll cover that in today's instructional video. Now I'm going to exit out of my presentation and we'll cover animating an entrance. So again, just to cover the basics, we have a variety of tabs across our ribbon at the top. If I click the animation tab, we'll see options appear here. And if I put my my cursor in front of the first bullet, I can then select an entrance animation from there. If you want to see more options than what's available in the first row, you can scroll down like this, right here, or this is a more button, which if you click will show you lots. We're going to be using entrance and emphasis today. You'll see exit a little further down. And if you really want to see a broad variety, you can also click more entrance effects. And you'll see here you've got about 30 or 40. So I'm going to leave that. And while I'm here, what I'll do is I'll pick the fly in bullet. I told you before, I like that. I use it a lot. And once I've chosen that, you'll see you have another option here called Effect Options. You'll see this complement many animations. We're actually going to be using this too for the emphasis. So if I click that option, you'll see that I can bring it from the bottom left. And you see previews on your animations in your workspace when you select them. I can go from top left. I can come from the right. I use these different directions a lot with my images. So let's leave it at fly in from the, let's go back to the left. And so if I put this into my presentation, you'll see that these will only enter when I click my mouse. We're going to talk more about controlling the entry of your bullets later, but for now we're just covering basic entrance animations. So I click my mouse, the bullet enters from the left, flies in, which is exactly what I asked it to do. If I go back to that slide for a second, I can highlight an entire bullet and give it a different one if I want. For the first one, I can pick float in. So you can highlight an entire bullet and give it a different animation, or you can put your cursor right in front of the very first bullet and it will give the same animation to all of them. Okay? So now let's proceed on to, we'll go through the one we just completed. So now I want to show you the animation pane. I'm sure many of you are already aware of adding an entrance animation. That's one of the more basic parts of PowerPoint. But here we want to use the animation to give us control over our bullets and our animations. And this is going to include 3 levels. We're only going to use 2 levels today, but there are 3 levels. There's start and click, there's start with previous, and there's start after previous. We're not going to be learning start after previous today. Just start and click or start with previous. Here you can also change the order. So let me again leave my presentation and go to my workspace. So you'll see that I already have some animations here. I'll put it on none. And this time we'll add a fade. And you'll notice that some of these bullets are indented on another level. So you'll see here numbers 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. This is the order of your animations based on your click. And you'll notice that all of the indented bullets are also number 2, which means they're all going to come up at once. So let me show you the animation pane more to understand that better and understand how we can start to control these. In my animations tab, you'll see over here something called animation pane. And you're also going to see some shortcuts here that we may or may not use. We'll cover them, I think, as we go through. But the key thing here to learn and understand is this animation pane. So when I clicked it, I turned it off. When I turn it on, you'll see this field over here appear. So a number of comments. Number 1, I like to open this up just a little wider so that I can see more of it. You'll understand why in a second. The other thing you'll notice is that over here we have about 6 bullets, but you only see something called content placeholder here. That's because everything has been grouped together and collapsed. So if we click these 2 arrows here, we've opened that set of animations. So the other thing you'll notice here is that they all have, to me it looks like an orangey background. You may disagree, but the key thing is they're still grouped together. Even though I open this up from its collapsed state, they're still grouped together. If I click on one of them, you can see now that the background has changed and they're no longer grouped together. So just like many other things in the Microsoft world, I can hit the top one, hold my shift key and hit the bottom. I can select them all, group them all together again. Likewise, I can click 1 or 2 with my control key and group them a little bit more selectively. But right now we're going to break that grouping. We don't want anything grouped together. So let me just open this up a little bit more. I'm hoping, there we go. So now let me explain these options of start on click and start with previous. Whenever you see the little mouse here, and you may not see it, maybe you haven't expanded your animation pane window, you'll see here they disappear just because you've got limited space. When I open it back up, you'll see them again. So that little icon just means it's activated to animate on click, on the click of your mouse. You can also see that up here in these shortcuts. This bullet with the mouse beside it is going to start on click. Now you'll notice number 2 also has a mouse and it's going to start on click. But then all of these others, if you look at your shortcuts up top now, if I click that animation, it says start with previous. Start with previous means it is not going to come up one at a time. It's going to group itself and come up with the previous animation. So right now, bullet number 1 is on click, bullet number 2 is on click, and all of these indented bullets are start with previous, as you can see up here. You can also see that you'll see a drop-down option here. And again, you can see your options: start on click, start with previous, or start after previous. You'll see effect options and timing options as well, but we'll cover those later. Suffice to say, right now we've got 2 bullets that are starting on click. We've got 4 indented bullets on another level that are all going to come up together because they're starting with the previous animation, which is this one here. This includes. So if I put this back into my presentation mode, click 1 will bring up my first bullet as indicated in the animation pane. Click 2 brings up bullet 2 but it also brings up these 4 bullets: start on click, start with previous, start after previous, change the order. It brought those up because they were all told to start with, come up at the same time as the previous bullet. So if I want to change that, actually let's go to this one, because this one isn't as confusing. So I'll put these all on fly in. I didn't want to confuse you with the bullets actually saying a certain sentence. So I'll fly these in from the left. I'm going to uncollapse my content placeholder. You can see all my animations. Again, they're grouped together, so I'll click one to ungroup them. And you'll see here the first 4 are going to start on click. These 2 indented are going to start with previous, as indicated right here. So if I want to change this one to start on click, I can do so. I can also change this one to start on click. So now if I go back into my presentation mode, you'll see that all 6 bullets now are set up to start on click. And the use of this animation pane is going to be really important when we start to combine the de-emphasis of a bullet by changing its color with the entry of another bullet, because we need a couple things to happen at once. Let me go back to that. Now we can also change the order here. So this one here is number 5, which this bullet is indented. If I click and drag that up, you can see that I just changed the order. And you can also tell that by reading your numbers over here. We now go 1, 3, 4, 5, 2, 6. So I'll show you in my presentation mode how we change the order. So you see that bullet that used to be number 5, we've now made number 2. Now we're back to our other orders. Okay, so I'm not going to stay any longer on that, because if you need a review of it, you can just replay the video. Okay, so now we're going to learn how to choose an emphasis animation. And we're going to do this, we only want to learn the emphasis animation before we combine it with an entrance to get that effect of every time we bring in a new bullet, the previous bullet is de-emphasized. To do that, we need to add an emphasis. So all we're going to do in this stage is just learn how to add an emphasis animation. So again, I'm going to leave my presentation. See here, I've already got a few added. So to find the emphasis animations, click that More. That opens up all of your options. You scroll down to emphasis. So emphasis isn't a entry or an exit. It just means it's temporarily going to ask a bullet to do something. So the one that we're going to use is called font color. I'll just click a different one just for a second to change it from the old font color. So I'm going to go choose font color. So there you can see in the preview the colors are changing. Dang phone. University alert, they're closed because of a power outage. So all we're doing here is we're changing the color of the font. Now again, under Effect Options, I can choose what color I want that to change to. Now I have a dark blue background here, so I'll choose a dark gray so that it subtly fades into the background. Okay, so we've added an emphasis. We chose font color. We changed the color to get close to the background. If I had a white background for my slide, I might go with a very light gray. So again, you see 1, 2, 3. So these are going to change. My animations are collapsed because they're grouped together. In the animation pane, I'm going to open that, and you can see my 3 animations, and they are all grouped. They're no longer grouped together, but they are going to start on click. So if I put it into presentation mode, so you'll see I didn't add an entrance animation. You're seeing all 3 of my bullets. When I click, the color of the first one changes. When I click again, the next bullet changes. So everything is based on the order of clicking my mouse. And there's the final one. And again, just to review that animation pane, I could change, say, this third one to start with previous. By doing that, that means that bullet 2 and bullet 3 are going to happen at the same time. Okay, we're asking the third bullet to change color with number 2. Just demonstrate that quickly. So first click, the first bullet changes color. Next click, we should see bullet 2 and 3 change color. And we did, because we asked bullet 3 to change color with the previous bullet, which was bullet 2. Okay, the only other thing I want to show you here before we go on is in this top menu here, and also available in your drop-down menu, you can change the timing. So here, you'll notice that was a very slow color change. I personally like the color change to happen much faster than that. So right now it's set on a 2-second duration. I'm going to change that. For the sake of this instructional video, I'm going to take it all the way down to a 1/4 of a second. And actually, I've got to make sure I do it for all 3. So I'm going to group them. And I'll put in a 1/4 of a second for all 3. So now, when we go through our little demonstration, you'll see that it's going to change color much faster. And again, those second 2 happen concurrently because I had the start with previous. Okay, I hope you're all with me, because now we're going to put together the entrance and the emphasis together to get that effect that we started with at the very beginning, where as one bullet comes in, the previous bullet is going to change color to fade in the background. So the eye is focused on the bullet with the highest contrast, which for me is the color white. I've chosen a white font color on a dark blue background because it's high contrast. Okay, so I'll go back to my workspace. I have my animation pane open, and you'll see that I have no animations right now. So the first thing I'm going to do, hang on to your seats, this can get a little complicated. First thing I'm going to do is add my entrance animation. Let's pick fly in, if for no other reason we want to practice with our effect options. Let's bring it from the top this time. So if you look at my animation pane to the right, it's collapsed because it's grouped. I'm going to open that up, and you'll see that I have 3 bullet animations. I've kept this to 3 so that it doesn't get too complicated. 5 or 6 gets really complicated. So I have 3 bullets. They're all set up with an entrance animation of fly in from the top. Now, the next step of adding the emphasis, this is an extremely important step. If I went straight to, and I'll make sure my mouse is in front of the first bullet, if I went straight to emphasis from here, it's going to replace my old animation of enter. I don't want it to do that. I want to add another layer of animations. To do that, right here is an important button called Add Animation. I'm going to click that. Down here you will see my emphasis animations, and I'm going to pick font color, and we'll just wait as it goes through its preview. So the default color for this design scheme is yellow. I'm going to change that. So they're all still grouped together right now, so I'm going to change that color, as I mentioned before, to a dark gray. I'll choose that one. And I'm also going to change my duration down to, say, half a second from 2 seconds. So that's up here. So I've got that set to a half a second. Okay, so we're still not there though. All we have done, I'm going to uncollapse this. So all we have now is 6 animations all on click, but the order isn't right. Let me demonstrate that. We have this set up where we're going to do 3 entrance in a row and then 3 emphasis in a row, and that's not what we want. Bring in a bullet, bring in a bullet, bring in a bullet. Now we're changing the emphasis to a different color, but it's not the order we want. So I'll go back to my workspace. And remember, before we were able to drag these to change the order. So I want this animation to go after the first bullet. I'll take this number 5 and put it under number 3, and number 6 I can leave. So now I have the order correct, where bullet number 1 will come up, and then bullet number 1 will turn to gray. Bullet number 2 will come up, bullet number 2 will turn to gray, and so on for bullet 3. So I'll demonstrate that. Bullet number 1 enters. Remember, everything right now is still on click. Then bullet 1 fades to gray. Bullet 2 enters. Bullet 2 changes to gray. Bullet 3 enters. Bullet 3 changes to gray. A lot of times that third and final fade or change of color I delete, because by then you're ready to go to the next slide anyway, so it's almost unnecessary. So we're getting closer. We've added our entrance, we've added our font color change, but everything is still on click. That's not the way we want it. We want 2 things to happen at once. As the new bullet comes up, we want the old bullet to change color at the same time, which is the with previous we had talked about before. So go back to my workspace. So right now I want this, the second bullet, to add, it reads to add the emphasis. Go to add animation. We want this to start with previous. And you can do these in any order you want. The thing to understand is the relationship between the two. So I have changed this entrance animation here to start with previous. So I'll just demonstrate the one change we made. Go back into my show mode. The first bullet comes on. Now for this animation, that one will change color as the new one comes on. There. See how that worked with one click? My previous bullet faded to gray at the same time my new bullet came on. So we haven't done that yet for the next step. So for this one, as the old bullet turns gray, We want the new one to come on. We want to start with previous. And again, the order of, do I want to fade the other bullet to gray first and then enter the new bullet concurrently? Or do I want to enter the new bullet and then change the old bullet to gray? It doesn't matter. Because they're happening concurrently, that's the definition of start with previous, that order doesn't matter. So now I should have the effect I'm looking for. I hit the first bullet. That's all people are going to focus on because that's all I'm showing them. Now when I want to bring up my second talking point, you'll see that with one click, the new bullet came on and the old bullet faded to gray. It should work one more time. Then my next speaking point came up. My old speaking point faded to gray. This is a very effective, from a visual point of view, this is a very effective way to control your audience. Make sure that they're focusing on you and not all of the text on your presentation. You'll also notice that all of my bullets have been very, very short. A good bullet should only be 6 to 8 words, that sort of length. If you've got a bullet that is 20 words long, you're into the bad practice area. Okay, so again, that third one, I'm just going to remove. So if I go to that drop down again, you'll see options of timing and effect options. And I'm going to remove that last one because I don't need it to change to gray. I'm on to my next slide, which for us will be our conclusion slide. So this tutorial taught us how to enter a bullet. And when a new bullet comes on, the previous bullet will fade to gray. Likewise with the third. And now I'm going to go to my conclusion slide. Okay, so that's my tutorial on bullet management. You can't see it behind me because of the position of my camera, but I hope that helps, and I will do another one soon on doing the same with images, because if you go back to that very first slide I did, which was presentation to the max, we had bullets and images coming on screen at the same time, and images were leaving as we brought up a new talking point. But that's for another day. Okay, hope you enjoyed the instructional video, and good luck.